And tonight, trust and commitment. And then after tonight's, so last time we had like the first introductory chapter, super cool foundational stuff, but really not the date after. And then tonight we'll be launching into sort of our first topic that is followed up with a date. And so tonight, as we see our format that we'll get very acquainted with, we'll have opportunity to hear the presentation through video, have some interaction, both face-to-face as couples, as well as the breakout groups with other couples. That whole variety is really meant to help us get to know one another as well as our partner a little better on these topics. So we just want to absolutely welcome you. And it was fun just looking at all the names. I'm, starting to recognize a bunch of names out there. So we're delighted that we all could be part of the same group. I think at this time, His Eminence will be greeting us and perhaps have a prayer for us.
Thank you, George. Many thanks to all of you, and I thank you so much for being here tonight. An exciting program that has been put together for you. I know that you had an introductory session last week, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to participate, but I'm pleased to be with you this evening as you embark on this journey. Many things have been said and stated about this ministry of our metropolis. The most important one that has been stated is that we are always unexpectedly refreshing. Whether you have been married for 1 year, 10 years, or more than 20 years, I'm proud that you have made the commitment to invest this time and the effort into the 8 Dates program. Every relationship between spouses, parents, and their children, other family members, friends, and co-workers, any relationship needs to be cultivated and nurtured. During these next 8 days, you will learn valuable tools and can apply them to your marriage. And I am certain you will find some of these same sort of resources applicable to other aspects of your lives as well. We all experienced life from a different lens during the pandemic, and we were all confronted with challenges and truly journeyed through unknown territory. The same is true for your marriages. There is no roadmap to tell you the direction you should go. However, you do have the ultimate guide in Christ. Put your trust in Him and let Him lead you in your marriage, your relationships, and your life. Not everything will be full of beautiful bouquets of roses and flowers, romantic and relaxing vacations. Life happens. Sickness happens. Unemployment happens. Infidelity happens. Death happens. Tonight is only the beginning of your 8 dates journey. And even when these 8 dates conclude, you can and should continue dating. Just as learning is a lifelong process, so is the growth and the beauty of your marriage. It takes time and effort. Commit to each other, cultivate trust, and always recall the powerful words of the prayer from your wedding that goes thusly: O Lord our God, who in your saving providence did promise in Cana of Galilee to declare marriage honorable by your presence, do you yourself preserve in peace and oneness of mind these your servants, whom you are well pleased should be joined to one another. Declare the marriage honorable, preserve their bed undefiled, grant that their life together be without sin, and assure that they may be always worthy to attain unto the ripe old age, keeping your commandments in a pure heart. End of quote. Thank you for letting me be a part of this gathering this evening, my dear friends. I will stay with you as long as I can because I enjoy all the little nuggets of beautiful exchange. And I'm always here for you. So please lean on me. And may God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Eminence. And thank you for sharing those very, very beautiful words. And now I'm going to hand it over to Father Jim Pappas. To share with us our quote for the evening.
There we go.
Thank you.
So Father Constantine Nassar shares with us a successful marriage does not happen nonchalantly like an intricate dance. Marriage is the art of two people learning how to move gracefully through life in step with each other. To become an accomplished dancer requires many lessons over several years. Learning how to move gracefully through life in step with your spouse will require weekly, if not daily, effort and commitment. It is never too late to learn how to dance, nor is it too late to master the art of marriage. It will take a lifetime of lessons, but that's what marriage is, a lifetime commitment of moving gracefully through life in step together.
Thank you, Bondine. All right, we'll go ahead and end the poll now and share it with everyone. So from the women, they reflected and they saw a high level of trust and commitment. That was 53%. And looking down to the men, they also had 53% that said high level of trust and commitment, followed by a little bit of uncertainty of their trust and commitment. But I'll go ahead and hand this over to Father Tom Zagalakis to give us some reflection on this.
You know, this is reflective of many of us, right? It depends on what day you talk to us. We feel like we can trust each other and commit to one another. My parents, I put in their high level of trust and commitment because they were from old school. They were committed to make the marriage happen and make it work, and at all cost. And there's been some of us have been in relationships where we weren't sure what commitment or trust even was. So this is a beautiful time during this evening to really rethink. Because I think when you just think trust, what does that mean? You know, I've heard so many times as a therapist, as a priest, I don't trust him anymore. I don't trust her. And what does that really mean? And hopefully tonight we'll be addressing some of those issues. And so you can have a feel of how to really rethink the beauty of trust and what it takes.
Wonderful.
And you know, we're going to actually pass it on now to George Papageorge. Just to share a little bit before we start the teaching video, to share just a few thoughts about trust and commitment and today's topic.
Thanks, Prez. You know what's coming your way, you guys, and you'll enjoy what the Zagalakis have prepared, and really some good motivation, get us moving in a really good direction. When we think about trust and commitment, I just want to start with Dr. John Gottman calls it, how does he call it? The sound relationship house. So he uses all the topics we're talking about. He puts it kind of in the metaphor of a house. And what he says is that trust and commitment are the pillars of a sound, healthy, sturdy house. I kind of think of it in kind of a Greek kind of way. If you've ever seen the Parthenon at all, if you could picture the Parthenon without the pillars, we would have never have ever there would be nothing really to talk about without the pillars. So if we can imagine our relationships without pillars, well, what are the pillars we're looking at tonight? Trust and commitment. The only added thought I wanted to throw in there before we roll tape and look at the presentation is that our whole life story shapes our experience with trust and commitment, going all the way back to our very first relationships with parents. The poll question implied one part of that, which is what was modeled for us, but also what we experienced with them emotionally shapes our idea of who was there for us, who wasn't there for us. Those early years do play into the fabric of, or the pillars of our personal relationship with trust and commitment. And then also want to mention, when we think about trust and commitment, sometimes we tend to think about the other person. Are they trustworthy? Are they committed enough? That's one way to look at it. That's like one side of it. The other is, sometimes we have to look at, where am I at with my ability to trust? Sometimes if we have enough insecurities, we're going to have trust issues. The other person might do something that disappoints us, and we'll process that as, I can't trust them. So we just want to keep in mind both sides of, how does the other person show up being trustworthy and committed? What's my sort of emotional experience with being trusting, and also moving forward with being a committed person. The final thing I'll say is, and this is what we're most thankful for, here we are as, believers, Christ-centered people. That whole experience, talk about pillars, that whole experience is trust and commitment, that he is the most trustworthy. We put our trust in him. We've made a commitment to him, because even while we're yet sinners, he committed to be there for us. So we keep that in mind, that this is not just a human endeavor tonight, although we'll be looking at certainly our part in how we experience and what we bring home in the area of trust and commitment, but that truly the depth of who we are is based on trust and commitment to Christ. So let's roll forward with our topic of trust and commitment.
I will go ahead and bring up the question on the screen. And Father Tom, do you want to read it for us?
Yeah, so those two basic questions that can fill the whole hour or two. So please do your best to share one thing that speaks to you most about trust and commitment that you saw in the video. And the other question is, reflecting back on your own parents' marriage, how are you doing trust and commitment differently or the same? Have fun with that.
Thank you. So again, this is just between the couples. It's not in the breakout rooms yet. So you can turn to each other or call each other on the phone, whatever it is that you need to do to connect, to talk about it. Just make sure you're all on mute. So it is a private conversation. And I'll go ahead and set my timer for 5 minutes, and you'll know your time.
Our question for our discussion groups are, trust and commitment are the foundation of every topic in the 8-date series. What are trust and commitment killers? What are those things that really work against the idea of trust and commitment? And then what are the trust and commitment cultivators? What are those things that cultivate in your relationship trust and commitment? And finally, the second group is to share a wedding photo or a favorite photo. It could be something on your phone, anything encapsulates your relationship. And so you just would go right up to the screen and show your picture and share that picture with the group, and maybe have a little explanation about why that picture matters to you. So Johanna is going to break us up into our breakout rooms, and we'll have a few minutes to get to know each other. Introduce yourselves, turn on your cameras, and get to know these beautiful people in our 8 Dates family.
Nice to see everyone's smiling faces. Hope you had some wonderful conversations together. And if you feel comfortable, you are welcome to share those photos. You can email them to me. Those photos that you shared in your breakout rooms of your wedding photos or your favorite photos, feel free to email those to me, and we can include them in some of our little videos and promos for this series. So welcome. I think all of our couples are back here. And now I'll hand it back over to the Tsagalaikis for some quick comments.
I know in our group, I really enjoyed really stepping into authenticity and really doing our best to be real. And everyone said beautiful things, but someone said, sometimes it's really hard for me to be honest and committed to being vulnerable, because I'm not sure how my wife or husband is going to react. So I think for me is, how do we take the courage to know that we're on the same team? We all want the best for each other. And the only way that's going to happen is we can speak from our heart in an authentic way, and to know we have the reliability. I think we're going to put this on the video. Brene Brown talks about the anatomy of trust. And I really want all of you to check it out, because she does a beautiful job for us to think about in a really scientific, yet I think Christian Orthodox way.
So I will read for you Brene Brown's acronym BRAVING in regards to trust. B, boundaries. You respect my boundaries, and when you're not clear about what's okay and not okay, you ask. You're willing to say no. Reliability. You do what you say you'll do. Accountability. You own your mistakes, apologize, and make amends. V, vault. You don't share information or experiences that are not yours to share. I need to know that my confidences are kept and that you're not sharing with me any information about other people that should be confidential. I stands for integrity. You choose courage over comfort. You choose what is right over what is fun, fast, or easy, and you choose to practice your values rather than simply professing them. N is for non-judgment. I can ask for what I need, and you can ask for what you need. We can talk about how we feel without judgment. And finally, G, generosity. You extend the most generous interpretation possible to the intentions, words, and actions of others.
I had someone say to me when they heard this in one of their churches, they did it in-house. He said, this is the one tape I hated, because I broke the trust with my spouse, and I didn't feel commitment. I didn't feel trust. And the question is, when our trust is broken, commitment is compromised, how are we going to seek help to rebuild that and restore that? Because that's the beauty. The devil wants to destroy, disrupt, fragment, and the Lord wants to meet you into some place of community where you can heal things that need to be discussed and dealt with. That's sorry.
And so now we're going to pass it on to Father Vasily, who is going to share with us just a few other thoughts and wrap up today's meeting.
All right, good evening, everybody. So last week, Dr. George and Father Timothy, they said that our marriage benefits from how much we care and then how much skill we have. And when we care a lot, but we don't have skills, it presents some problems. And when we have skills, but don't really care, then we can get into manipulation and these things. So we know that you all care. We all care because we're all here. And we wouldn't be here taking time to work on our marriage if we didn't care. So what we want to do is give us skills. We want to have the skills to match our level of care to help us in our marriages. So John Gottman, in some of his other books, he writes that the key to building trust in our relationships is by being in what he calls attunement with our spouse. And we'll talk about what that means in just a second. But in our marriage life, right, we get these moments of possibility. And the possibility is the possibility to connect in a deep or emotional way. And Gottman calls these opportunities sliding door moments. And I don't know, it comes from a movie, I think it's called Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow. Anyway, right. She's trying to get on the subway. And in one version, she makes it and gets home, and the other version she just missed the sliding doors and doesn't get on, and her life changes depending whether she makes the subway or doesn't make it. So we get these sliding door moments in our marriage when our spouse makes a bid to connect with us on an emotional level. That they're looking for affection, they could be looking for sympathy or empathy, etc. And so when they make these bids for connection, and really it's emotional connection, we have three choices, right? We can either respond to that bid, right, and meet them. We can ignore it, right? If we're busy, if we're on our phone and we're just ignore what's being said and keep scrolling, or we can even turn against the bid. And when our marriage is really sour, we may, freeze up, and go stone faced and just walk out of the room and turn completely away from them. So, we ignore these bids. And I think probably those of us who are here, we don't really do stonewalling and completely reject the bids that our partner is making, but sometimes we do ignore or turn away in maybe a soft manner. And we do this because we make the mistake of thinking that we're responsible for how our spouse is feeling, and their emotions are scary to us because we don't want to accept responsibility for that. Or if they're feeling down, we don't want to feel down. And so we don't meet them. We don't meet these sliding door moments. And we make the mistake of harming trust instead of building trust. So this is how we attune. And Gottman says we need to attune to our spouse. And so attune, we get this acronym, right? The A is to be aware of the emotion, right? We want to notice that our spouse is reaching out and be present for them. Stop what we're doing and be present. Really, really listen. We want to turn towards the emotion. And that means to make eye contact, right? To connect, right? This is a possibility. And the opportunity is to connect with our spouse. And this builds trust, right? The next T is tolerance. And we want to be tolerant of the emotions that we're experiencing because of interacting with our spouse and being present in their emotion. We're going to feel it too, right? And remember that it's not our fault and it's going to be okay, right? If they're sad, it's okay, right? It's not our responsibility that they're sad. We can't make them feel anything, right? We can't make them feel a certain way, but we can be with them in it and it's going to be okay. And then the U is understanding the emotion. So, like with those of you who have young kids, like I do, they may present anger, especially boys, right? And we want to look for the softer emotions beneath the anger. So really, they're frustrated, they're disappointed, they're scared, right? Well, we want to do this with our spouse too, to listen for the need that they have, to really listen to the need and find the source of the pain, right? They may be presenting an emotion, but underneath that emotion, there's a real need that we can help meet, right? So we want to understand what's really, really going on. And in the end, non-defensive listening to the emotion. So emotions are not, Gottman says, they're not like sweaters, right? That we can take off and put on. Like, I'm feeling sad, so I'm going to take off my sad sweater. I'm going to put on the happy sweater. It's sweater weather up here in Alaska right now, but emotions aren't like that, right? I can't say, okay, I'm not going to be sad. I'm going to be happy now, right? We can't do that. So when we're listening to our partner and they're demonstrating frustration or something, we want to be curious about it, curious about the emotion, curious about the frustration, even if that means we have to take a little bit of responsibility for something that we've done. But if we're being defensive, right? If we're being defensive, we can't be present. We can't be aware of what's going on with them if we're only inside of ourselves and becoming defensive about what might be coming our way, right? We want to focus on their experience and their pain. And then finally, empathy towards that emotion. And again, right, it's not a sweater. Sometimes the mistake we make, and we can't show empathy because we do this, right? We say, the feeling you're feeling right now isn't really valid, right? Just cheer up. You don't have the right to be sad about that. Don't be sad, just be happy, right? Or you don't have the right to be frustrated about that. That's not a valid emotion, right? And so if we're doing this, if we're judging the validity of the emotion, we're definitely not empathetic. We're really not responding to their need, and it prevents connection, and this erodes trust, right? So I want to leave us with this. Maybe you can write it down and put it on your refrigerator and try to remember that many moments are going to come to you in the week, maybe several times a day. And we want to meet those bids for connection by connecting, by being present, by being open, and by not being afraid of the emotions we may experience, but by connecting and helping to heal simply by being there and loving.
Thank you so much. And I just want to thank, I already received 3 emails of those favorite photos that people shared in the breakout. So continue to send those to me, as well as you can take new photos on your upcoming dates or any of the dates throughout the series, and send them to me as well, and we'll include them in our videos. But now I'm going to hand it over to Pres Michelle Triant to share about the homework.
Yes, and something that we did not make clear last week, but we wanted to just clarify for you all tonight. This is not your date. This is a presentation. This is a discussion. This is laying the foundation for what you're going to build together in the coming week. Your date is between the two of you, and to set up for the date that you will go on this week, whatever that may be, you're going to start by reading date number 1 of the book, 8 Dates. And that chapter is called Lean on Me, in the most recent printing of the book. That's pages 39 through 66. And then after you're done reading it and participating in the activities, thinking about the questions and all of the discussion that you had tonight, that's when you're going to prepare for your date. So you'll read first, and then you're going to assign someone within your couple to plan the date. And whoever plans the date is going to arrange for everything. They're going to coordinate childcare. They're going to choose the location. They're going to plan for a really wonderful experience together. And, in our breakout group, one of the things we talked about was open mind and listening. And that's going to be what you take with you to your date. Bring an open mind. Be prepared to discuss open-ended questions from the heart. You don't have to figure it all out on your date. This is when the work begins, and it will continue throughout the rest of your marriage. So go on date 1, make it special, complete the activity within the chapter. It's how much do you actually cherish your partner? That exercise is on between pages 55 and 61. And then you're going to join us for another 8 date section or session. It's not 2 weeks from now, which is what it normally would be. It's 1 week from now. So you're going to have to get that date in quickly. So, get started. We will meet next Thursday, November 3rd at 6:30 p.m. And your presenter will be George Papa George that evening.
Awesome.
Oh, and we'd like to hear from you. We want to see pictures from your date. We want to hear feedback. We want to know, what did you talk about? How did you feel? We love the feedback, and we like to incorporate it into future presentations.
Perfect. And again, send me those photos from your dates. All right. And I will go ahead and hand it now over to Pres Donna Pappas, who will read one of the prayers that Father Timothy Pavlatos wrote for us for our closing prayer.
Lord Jesus Christ, who are the fulfillment of the law and the prophets, who fills all things in both heaven and on earth. You gave yourself to the whole world as a living sacrifice and out of love for all mankind. Though you asked in the garden if the cup of suffering could be removed from you, you nevertheless remained obedient and committed to the will of your Father and trusting his will. You endured the cross for us and for our salvation. As frail human beings, it is difficult at times to trust due to our own past painful relational experiences. For all people fall short of your glory, all sin, and all suffer through the actions and words of others. How often have I asked that the cup of suffering be removed from my life in whatever form it takes? Yet I pray that your will be done, and that you simply grant me a measure of grace that would be sufficient for me in every circumstance. Grant me the ability to trust you with all my heart, that I may stay committed to you and to your path, which leads to everlasting life. Grant also that my beloved and I may forever cherish one another, be fully committed to one another, and trust one another, and in and through all that we will encounter in life. Help us to be forever mindful of the blessings that you have bestowed upon us as husband and wife, so that we may glorify your holy name through the ways in which we speak to one another, care for one another, and cherish one another. For you, O Lord, are a good, kind, and merciful God. To you we give glory, honor, and worship, now and forever into the ages of ages. Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you. And keep an eye out on your emails for my wrap-up email that I'll be sending you the next day or two. That'll have the video links that we shared tonight, the handout, once again, which you already have in the email I sent you a couple days ago, and then a copy of the prayer that Pres Donna just read. And again, those prayers at the end of each session are written by both, actually, Father Vasily Hillhouse and Father Timothy Pavlatos. They're really special prayers. We want to make sure you have copies of them and you can pray them as a couple together. So feel free to continue sending me emails with questions. I love hearing from you all. I hope you're enjoying this series. We love spending this time with you, and I hope you really enjoy this upcoming date. Have a good night.
The journey's going to be great. The journey's going to be great. God bless y'all.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next week. Remember, you don't.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
Kristen.
you.
Bye, Christina.
Thank you. Good night.
Eric.
Good
Carol.
Good night,
Liz.
everyone. It was so good to see everyone.
Thank you.